Hello, my sweet friends, and welcome to the Lantern Lit Hollow. Here, stories glow softly and help you drift off to sleep. So grab your favorite blanket, snuggle in nice and cozy, and when you're ready, we'll begin. Tonight's tale comes to us all the way from Germany and was originally written by the brothers Grimm. It's called The Brave Little Tailor. Our tale begins one beautiful summer morning. A little tailor was sitting cross-legged on his table near the open window, sewing cheerfully. As he was working, a peasant woman came down the street crying, "Jam for sale! Good jam for sale!" The tailor thought this sounded very good, especially as it was almost lunchtime. He put his friendly face out the window and said, "Over here, good woman. I would like to buy some jam." The woman walked up the steps of the tailor's shop with her heavy basket and laid out all the jars she had in front of him. It took a while for the tailor to examine them all, but he finally said, "This jam seems good. Measure 2 large spoonfuls for me, good woman. No, make it 4." The woman had hoped for a better sale than this after letting him look at every single jar, but nonetheless she gave him what he wanted. When she had gone, the little tailor took a loaf of bread out of the cupboard and cut a thick slice on which to spread the jam. "That looks delicious," he thought, "but before sinking my teeth into it, I'd better finish sewing this jacket." He put the bread down next to him on the bench and continued to sew. But the smell of the jam attracted some flies which were on the wall, and soon several of them had settled on the sticky sandwich. "Who invited you?" exclaimed the tailor, trying to swat at them. The flies took no notice of his flailing arms and buzzed around the jam in even greater numbers than before. By this time the tailor had had enough. He grabbed a piece of cloth from the drawer and cried, "Just wait, I will give you what for." With a quick strike, this time 7 dead flies dropped to the counter. "Good gracious!" he exclaimed. "I am a strong man. The whole city, no, the whole world must know about this." Then he made himself a belt and embroidered on it in big letters, "7 at 1 blow." He put the belt around his waist and decided to go out into the wide world there and then. Before he left, he searched the entire house to find something he could take with him, but all he could find was some old cheese, which he put in his pocket. By the front door, he noticed a bird that was entangled in a thicket. He rescued it and put it in his pocket with the cheese. Then he bravely took to the road, feeling as though he could walk forever. After a while, he passed by a mountain on top of which sat an enormous giant. The little tailor went straight up to him and said, "Hello, my friend. There you are looking at the world below, and here I am on my way into the world to look for adventure. Would you like to join me?" The giant gave him a scornful look and replied, "You're a funny fellow, you little shrimp." "Not I," cried the little tailor. He unbuttoned his coat and showed the giant his belt. "Read this, then you will know who you are talking to." The giant read the words 7 at 1 blow. Obviously, there was more to this little man than there seemed if he had killed 7 men in this way. Still, he wanted to test him. So he picked up a stone and squeezed it so hard that water ran out of it.
Do you have the strength to do what I have just done?
Asked the giant.
Is that all?
Sniffed the tailor.
This is a child's game in my country.
He fumbled in his pocket and took out the old piece of cheese he'd brought from his house. Then he squeezed it in his hand hard until the whey spurted out. The giant could not understand how such a small man could be so strong. He took another stone and threw it into the air so high that it nearly went out of sight, and said,
Go on, little man. Now you do that.
A good throw,
said the tailor.
but the stone fell back to the ground again. I will throw one so high that it will never fall to earth.
He then took the bird which he had rescued from the thicket out of his pocket and threw it swiftly into the air. The bird was so delighted to be free once more that it flew swiftly up into the sky and out of sight.
You can certainly throw,
Said the giant.
but can you carry as heavy as you can throw high?
He led the little tailor to a huge oak tree which had been chopped down.
If you really are that strong, help me to lift up this tree.
He said.
No problem, said the tailor. Take the trunk on your shoulders, and I will take care of the branches and the top. They are much heavier.
The giant took the trunk upon his shoulders, and the tailor sat down on a branch behind him. The giant then carried the whole tree by himself, and unknown to him, the tailor as well. The tailor perched comfortably on the branch, merrily whistling a song, as if carrying a tree was a piece of cake. After a few yards, the giant, who was almost crushed by the heavy burden, could not take another step and cried,
Look out! I am going to drop the tree.
The little man sprang to the ground and seized the tree with both arms as if he had been doing his share all along.
You are not all that powerful for a man of your size,
he remarked to the giant. The odd pair continued walking, and soon they passed by a cherry tree heavy with fruit. The giant reached to pick some of the ripest cherries from the top branches where they were growing. Then he bent the branches down so the little tailor could also eat some of the cherries. The tailor was, of course, too weak to hold the branches down by himself. When the giant let go, the tree sprang upright, carrying the little man into the air with it. When he fell back to the ground again, the giant said,
What is the matter with you? Don't you have the strength to bend such a little tree?
This has nothing to do with strength, answered the tailor. Why, I jumped over the tree to save myself from the bullets coming from the hunters' guns who were shooting through the bushes. Can't you do it?
The giant tried, but he could not jump over the tree and got stuck in the branches. So the little tailor had the advantage over him yet again.
Since you are such a sturdy man,
Said the giant.
I invite you to our cave to spend the night with us.
The tailor gladly accepted. When they arrived, they found other giants sitting around a fire, each with a roasted sheep in his hand. The giant showed the little tailor a bed where he could lie down. But as the bed was much too big for his little body, he curled up in a corner. At midnight, when the giant thought the tailor was fast asleep, he seized a huge iron bar and struck the bed in the middle, thinking to kill the little man. The next morning, the giants got up early. They had forgotten all about the little tailor. So when they saw him coming out of the cave very jauntily and rather impudently, they were overcome with fear. So they ran away into the forest as fast little tailor continued his journey with his head held high. After a long day's walk, he arrived at a palace garden. As he felt a little tired, he stretched out on the grass and fell fast asleep. Some of the people who worked in the palace found him. They inspected him from all sides and read on his belt 7 at one blow. "Oh, why is this great warrior here in a time of peace?" they asked themselves. "He must be an important lord." They went to the king to tell him what they had seen. They told him that if war was to break out, this man would be very useful and that they should not let him go. The king followed their advice and sent one of his courtiers to the little man to serve him as soon as he woke up. When the tailor opened his eyes and stretched out, the courtier at once offered him his services.
"I have, in fact, come for that purpose,"
said the tailor.
"I am ready to accept the king's services."
He was welcomed with all kinds of honors and assigned an apartment in the palace. But the king's soldiers were jealous of him.
"What will happen if we have an argument with him?"
they muttered to each other.
"He will jump on us and kill 7 at one blow. None of us will survive. We won't stand a chance."
They decided to go to the king to ask him for permission to leave.
"We cannot stay in the same place with a man who has killed 7 at one blow,"
they said to him. The king was distressed to see all his soldiers abandon him like this. He began to wish that he had never set eyes on the person who had caused all this trouble, and said he was quite willing to get rid of the little tailor. However, the king did not dare dismiss him outright, because he was too afraid that this fearsome man might kill him in order to seize the throne. The king thought, and at last came up with a plan. He had to make the little tailor an offer that he could not refuse as a great warrior. Now, there were 2 huge giants who committed all kinds of crimes, who lived in the forests of this country. No one ever approached them without fear for their lives. If the tailor were to defeat and kill them, the king promised to give him his only daughter as his wife and half his kingdom as well. The king also gave him 100 horsemen to help him carry out the task. The little tailor thought that this was the chance of a lifetime. He agreed to fight the 2 giants, but he did not need the help of the 100 horsemen, he said, because someone who has defeated 7 at one blow is not likely to be afraid of just 2 opponents. He set off for the forest at once, followed by the 100 horsemen. When he arrived at the edge of the forest, the little tailor told them to wait. He was determined to put an end to the 2 giants single-handedly. He went into the forest and carefully looked around him. In less than a second, he discovered the 2 giants. They were sleeping under a tree, snoring so loudly that all the branches shook. The little tailor filled his pockets with stones and climbed up into the tree at once. He crept along a branch which was hanging just above the 2 sleeping giants and dropped the stones one by one on one giant's chest. It took a long time before the giant felt anything, but at last he woke up, shook his friend, and said,
"What are you hitting me for?"
"You must have been dreaming,"
said the other.
"I haven't touched you."
Then they went back to sleep. The tailor then began to throw stones down onto the other giant.
"What is that?"
he cried.
"What are you throwing at me?"
"I haven't thrown anything at you. You must have been dreaming,"
answered the other. They began to argue, but they were too tired to carry on for long, and after a while, went back to sleep. The little tailor continued to play his game, this time dropping even bigger stones.
That's enough!
Cried the giant. He jumped up like a madman and flew at his friend, who fought back fiercely. The fight became so violent that they tore trees out of the ground to use as weapons, and they did not stop until both of them fell over dead on the ground. The little tailor left his hideout. He drew his sword and thrust it into each giant. Then he went back to his horsemen and said,
"It's over and done with. I have given both of them the finishing stroke. The fight was terrible. They even tore trees out of the ground to throw at me. But what good is that against a man who has killed 7 at one blow?"
"Aren't you injured?" asked the horseman.
"No,"
he said.
"Not a hair on my head was touched."
The horsemen could not believe it. They went into the forest and, to their great surprise, they found the 2 giants covered in blood, with trees lying all around them. The little tailor went to the king to claim his reward. However, the king regretted that he had made this promise, and he tried to find another way of getting rid of the tailor.
There is another task you must complete before I give you my daughter and half my kingdom,
said the king.
There is a dangerous unicorn which runs about these forests doing a great deal of damage. I want you to capture it and bring it to the palace.
I am even less scared of a unicorn than 2 giants. 7 at one blow is my motto,
declared the little tailor. He then took a rope and an axe and went into the forest. He ordered the soldiers who accompanied him to stay at the edge of the wood. Soon the unicorn appeared and charged toward the tailor, meaning to spear him with its horn.
"Easy, easy,"
said the tailor.
"Not too fast."
He stood still until the animal was almost on top of him. Then he quickly dodged behind a tree. The unicorn, running with all its might, pierced his sharp horn so far into the trunk that it was impossible to pull it out again. And so the beast was caught. The little tailor left his hiding place and put the rope around the unicorn's neck. Then, with his axe, he released its horn, which was stuck in the tree. Finally, he took the animal to the king. The king was amazed that he had captured the unicorn, but still he would not give the tailor his reward. Instead, he made a third demand of him. The little tailor was ordered to capture a wild boar that was rampaging in the nearby woods. The man could, of course, have the assistance of the king's huntsman. The king was convinced that this time the little tailor would surely fail. Although he saw right through the king's plan, the tailor accepted this third demand, saying it was merely child's play. As before, he went into the forest alone, refusing any help from the huntsmen. They were not angry with his decision, because the boar had more than once got the better of them and had killed or injured several of their number in past hunts. The tailor strolled along the path, and it wasn't long before he encountered the animal. As soon as the boar saw him, it charged at him, foaming at the mouth and snapping its sharp teeth that could easily bite through him. The nimble man rushed into a nearby chapel and immediately jumped out of the window at the far end. The boar rushed in after the tailor, but within 2 leaps, the tailor had run around the outside of the chapel and slammed the door shut behind him. The furious beast was caught, for it was too big and heavy to escape through the window. Then the tailor went to the king, who was now obliged to keep his word and give the man his daughter and half his kingdom. If he had known that his son-in-law was a mere needleworker and not a great warrior, he would have been outraged. The marriage was celebrated with much pomp but little joy, and the little tailor became king. One night, the young queen heard her husband talking in his dreams.
Hurry up, apprentice. Finish the jacket and patch those trousers, or I'll give you a good whack,
he was muttering. She realized that the young man was not at all what he seemed, and listening closely, she soon discovered that he had been brought up in a tailor's shop. The next morning, she went to her father and complained. She begged him to release her from her husband, who was only a humble tailor. The king promised that he would help her.
Leave your room unlocked tonight,
He said.
My soldiers will guard the door, and when the tailor is fast asleep, they will come in and chain him up. Then they will take him to a ship that will carry him far away.
The young queen was delighted, but the king's footman, who had heard everything and who had grown to like the new heir, told him their plans.
I will soon put a stop to that,
the tailor said to him. That evening he went to bed as usual. When his wife thought he was fast asleep, she got out of bed to unlock the door and then returned to the bed. The little man, who was only pretending to be asleep, began to cry out,
Hurry up, apprentice. Finish that jacket and patch those trousers, or I will give you a good whack. I have defeated 7 with 1 blow. I have killed 2 giants, chased a unicorn, and captured a boar. Do you think I am afraid of the people that stand outside my door?
When they heard this, the soldiers were overcome with fear and ran away as if the devil were on their backs. From then on, no one ever dared to cross him, and the tailor remained king for the rest of his life. That brings our story to an end, my sweet friends. Now it is time to turn the lantern down to a soft glow. Snuggle with your favorite stuffy and let yourself drift off to dreamland. Sleep sweet, my dear friends, and I'll be here when next you return.